Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regular City Council meeting of June 12th, 2018. We have no registrations for the open forum, so at this time, I would ask you all to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with us. Pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. Thank you. At this time, I would move the approval of the minutes of the special joint City Council and HRA work session of May 21st, 2018, the special City Council work session of May 22nd, 2018, and the special City Council work session of May 22nd, 2018, and the regular City Council meeting of May 22nd, 2018.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. At this time, I would ask Councilmember Howard to work with the Human Rights Commission on a couple presentations this evening.
The first one is one of our favorite things we get to do each year, and it's to award the Jean and Mary Jacobson Citizen of the Year Award for 2018. And so I want to introduce our Human Rights Chair, Mark Westergaard, to talk about this year's winner.
This is also one of our favorite things to do in the year. So thanks to Mayor, City Council, and to the community for being here. So every year, the Richfield Human Rights Commission accepts nominations for the Jean and Mary Jacobson Outstanding Citizen Award in Richfield. This annual award honors a family, group, organization, business, or in this case, individual that lives or works in Richfield. The Human Rights Commission gives the award to recognize outstanding community service, a commitment to human rights, or the efforts to improve our community and make it a better place for all. And I can say our award winner hits all of those things. It's not like one or the other, or a couple things, everything. This year, our award goes to Joyce Marie. And let me tell you a little bit about this impressive woman. She's a certified drama therapist with a doctorate in creative drama art therapy. She's authored 2 devotional books for women and a book series for children entitled Cherrywood Finds a Home. Her work in theater spans 30 years and incorporates drama, dance, literature, and music. She performs a one-woman show on the life and history of Sojourner Truth. She's a founder and executive director of Cultural Crossroads, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the cultural and artistic expressions of people of African descent. Her work is primarily dedicated to teaching and empowering children. She says, reach and teach. If you can't reach them, you can't teach them. How this woman has any spare time, I have no idea. It's beyond me. But she's also the co-chair of the Richfield Arts Commission. I'm going to turn it over now to Kim Jacobson, who's going to more formally give the award. So, Kim.
I like this every year. Mayor Elliott, council members, my mom and dad love this community, and I always get a little whimsical, and I say, well, they're sitting on the edge of a cloud watching over this presentation as they have all the others, and are grateful for the kind of people who receive this award in this place now so safe and so diverse. They would be proud indeed. Joyce Marie, this award is presented by the Richfield Human Rights Commission in recognition of your contribution toward fostering and promoting human understanding, tolerance, and the spirit of human relations. I might say I don't get to meet people until like an hour before, but I've learned so much about this woman's contribution to the community, and it seems as though this is appropriate. Yeah.
Oh, just take a deep breath. Can you speak to the... Okay. I gotta take a deep breath. That's what I said. But I spoke earlier about, I'm so happy that I'm receiving this award. I just want to thank the city of Richfield, and I want to thank Pat Elliott, the mayor, and the council members. I'm just happy that someone thought of me. I know Mary Stratton was in my building, and she chose to nominate me. I didn't, and so you never know who's watching you, So that was interesting. I also want to thank Mark Westergaard also, and thank Ken Jacobson also for this award. I really appreciate that. Got to know him, wonderful person. I was going to read a poem, but we empower the young people, youth education through the arts with Crossroads Panorama. And a lot of the students or the young people that I get are maybe in a dollar store or Walmart or wherever they are. I'm out to get them because they may be idle. So I bring them and get them involved in Crossroads, and we tap into their potential, And so it's very important to me, and I think I'm so glad that I was chosen for this. I do have a poem that I'd like to read that I wrote, and I want you to think about this. I wrote this poem while working in the juvenile corrections in Minnetonka, seeing beyond the outward. I found a diamond. I found the diamond shining bright. Do you see it? Beyond the rough black night. I found the diamond shining bright beyond the rough black night. See it? It can be found. But when it is buffed, polished out of the rough black night, the diamond resonates with potential, tenacity, respect, support, and trust. I see that diamond shining bright, lighter than the rough black night. I found the diamond. That's my point. Thank you.
Excuse me, no time to sit down, you have to stand up so we can offer our accolades to you, okay? Come back up. I just want to suggest that your credentials are outstanding and somewhat intimidating. I understand the work and everything that went into it, but more importantly, the credentials don't make the person.
That's right.
It's the aura the person presents. And I think everyone up on the dais got that feeling when we interviewed you for the commission. There was a sense of confidence, quality, desire to share, the desire to make other people better, and it all came across in the 10 minutes we had with you. And I think I can emphasize that even more by not only the poem you wrote, but the manner in which you recite it. You have the passion, the feeling, the sensitivity, the empathy, everything that I would, if I ever had a child in juvenile care, that's what I want in a person, and that's why I think it's so exciting to have you standing up here getting this award tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure meeting you and being in the presence and feeling that same aura, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't leave yet. There's more. I just want to say thank you so much. We are so proud to have you as a Richfield resident. It's close to impossible to look around and see somebody who's not othering or showing fear of the unknown everywhere. You turn on the news, you hear stories, and it is people like you, Joyce Marie, and others who are bridges.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bridges across difference, bridges across helping people not be afraid and get to know one another. And you are what make Richfield great, and people like you are the people that we need to lead in this community, in a community that has so much diversity in age, in race, ethnicity, income, experience. That is what makes Richfield beautiful, and it is your kind of leadership that we need, and I hope that you keep growing that leadership in others because it makes our community great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come around here and shake our hands.
Do I go this way?
No, yeah, this way.
This way.
Well, whatever. Yeah. Whatever works.
just heard someone whisper you're 100.
Thank you so much, Pat.
So proud of you.
Oh,
Let's go up front.
Should we go right up front? Yeah, right up front.
Go up front. Up here. on the desk.
I think Councilmember Troutman asked for 10 seconds, so.
10 seconds.
I'm counting.
I might take 15, but Dr. Marie, don't leave just yet. I just wanted to say briefly that it's a privilege to share a lot of things, to share a friendship, to share a common alma mater, and to share common values, but it's particularly a privilege to share the city of Richfield with you, and you bless us. Thank you, Dr. Marie. Thank you.
So, Councilmember Howard now gets to introduce the next presentation, and I want you all to give some love to the Human Rights Commission because it's his commission that appointed our winners. So just because you're going to pale a little in comparison, don't worry about that, okay?
They did a good job.
You had a very good introduction to the Human Rights Commission, and now we get to hear about the year in review.
Yes, thanks again, and thanks for the nice warm reception for Joyce. So I'm here, I'm the chairman of the Human Rights Commission, and once a year I come here to present the annual report, just kind of give an overview of the annual report. I think you had a pre-read of this. I'll give a little preamble as to what we're all about for the rest of the folks here. So the purpose of the Human Rights Commission is to secure for all citizens equal opportunity in employment, housing, public accommodations, public services, and education, and full participation in the affairs of the community, and to take appropriate action consistent with the Minnesota Human Rights Act. And I'll just plow right into the annual report and go over some of the highlights. So this year we passed 2 resolutions, this year being from a year ago to now, so it spans over a couple of years. We passed a resolution in support of DACA children, so the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And this program provides protection from deportation to children of undocumented immigrants after undergoing extensive application and review process, as well as regular renewals. We also passed a resolution in support of Planned Parenthood, specifically Planned Parenthood of Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, and there is a Planned Parenthood right here in Richfield at 66th and Lindale. We specifically cited their efforts that provide cancer screenings, birth control, STD tests, and treatment and exams to 4,300 people in Richfield every year. So in the community and education outreach activities, we kind of group most of our activities that we do in a given year under either community, education, or outreach. and I'll just go through some of the highlights. We again participated in the 4th of July parade and also at Penn Fest. We did for, I think, the 3rd year in a row, maybe the 4th year in a row, we partnered with the Advocates for Human Rights, and we did a human trafficking event. This one that we did this year was at House of Prayer Lutheran Church. They were a terrific host. We had over 35 people in attendance, and also I want to thank the Richfield PD for being in attendance at that as well. It was really helpful in the question and answer period, so people say, what's Richfield PD doing in regards to trafficking? Are they getting trained? Are they well enough educated to be able to spot it and fight it? That's always a good event. We also, just this past February, with the U.S. District Court, we partner with them once a year to do a naturalization event for new citizens, and we change the venue each year. So a year ago, we did it at Richfield High School in front of students. This year, we did it right here in this room, and thanks to the mayor and Councilmember Howard for being in attendance as well. So I think it was 35 residents, or 35 new citizens were sworn in here by the district court, and they were from 18 different countries. And it is always a powerful event to see one of those. If you haven't seen it, whether it's in Richfield or somewhere else, by all means do it. And just a tip-off, we're going to do it open to the public, but it's going to be at Holy Angels this next February, and we always have the day after President's Day is the day that we do it, and we did just get confirmed that we're going to do it there. And it'll be probably several hundred people that are naturalized. We also did an Islam 101 event. This is the 3rd year in a row, and we partner with the Islamic Resource Group. They have a series of speakers that get certified, and they come out and they talk about similarities to Islam and Judaism and to Christianity and what Islam is and what it isn't. And they always have terrific speakers. We had over 60 people in attendance, and that was also at House of Prayer Lutheran Church. And just this past Saturday, we did our very first Pride event, and that was partnering with Augsburg Library, where we had a screening of the movie Moonlight and a Q&A session afterwards, helped facilitated by the Human Rights Commission and with the librarian at Augsburg Library. Next, things that I'll at least mention is some general commission business that we did. We appointed 6 new commissioners this year, so we have a lot of new people coming in. And we have 13 commission spots, and we're always full, but 6 new people in, and that's great to have new folks come in. Then the next 3 items I'm going to mention, if you had a Venn diagram, they all kind of overlap a little bit. There's some connection between them. So I'll say what they are first, and then I'll go back to them. But we did a demographic survey of the boards and commissions of Richfield. So what's the demographic makeup of our commissions, and does that reflect the demographic makeup of our city? Because it's important that we do. Next is the recruitment to boards and commissions. We undertake a big effort to try and push people to sign up for the boards and commissions within Richfield, and then also increased presence on social media. So I'll go backwards then. In the increased presence on social media, we put out a lot of messages to say, please sign up for commissions. Here's the commissions with openings. We put it out on Facebook. We put it out on the Human Rights Commission webpage. And then just the general recruitment boards and commissions. Like I said, we were involved in Penn Fest, in the 4th of July parade, at each event that we're at. And even when we do the human trafficking and when we do some of the other events, we're always handing out something saying, here, please sign up for a Richfield Commission. And if you have any questions, let us know. Let the city know. And then going back again, so the demographic survey to the boards and commissions. We've done it every year for every other year. So 2014, 16, and now 18, we did the demographic survey. We're just kind of getting some trend analysis as to how reflective are our boards and commissions to the population of Richfield. Lastly, it's on here, but you already know, the Jean and Mary Jacobson Award. So it was a great one tonight, and it was fun. So, any questions?
I'll just lead off by saying thank you to our chair, Chair Westergaard. During my time on the council, I've had the pleasure and honor of being the liaison to the Human Rights Commission, and I've just seen this group of people over several years with just an earnest focus on making Richfield a more welcoming, inclusive place. And one thing I appreciate about the Human Rights Commission is that they're never satisfied. They're constantly talking and trying to figure out how can we do a better job in Richfield. And I think that they have our Human Rights Commission can play a really important role in the city's continued work on equity. And so I just think this will be the last time I get to serve as the liaison and hear that yearly report. And I just want to thank one last time, Mark, for just your great leadership on the Human Rights Commission, and a big thank you to all of the Human Rights Commission members for their valuable service for the city.
Thanks. Yes.
Well, I just wanted for you to introduce other members of the commission that are here with you.
Yeah, Debbie Eng is here. She's our vice chair. And Kara Chillman's here. She's over there. She's our secretary.
Great.
Like I say, we have 13 commissioners, so.
And we appreciate what you've done, and we look forward to your continued efforts.
I'll also say that I really appreciate how our city supports us, and so even our police department, with Mike Koob being our liaison. I am on Governor Dayton's advisory committee for advising other human rights commissions around the state. Good. And I am very appreciative at the support we get from our city.
Great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is hats off to Hometown Hits, and given seniority in public service, Councilmember Garcia always gets her choice to lead off or back cleanup. So what's your preference this evening?
Well, I'll go ahead because I don't have a long list.
Okay.
Okay, Thursday the 14th at Oxburg Park, we continue with our concerts, and Vinnie Rose will be there. And on the 19th, at Oxburg Park, there's kids entertainment, and that's by the Alphabets, and that's at 12 o'clock noon. And then on the 20th, at the Richfield Historical Center, there's another concert that's a Ghost Wagon Band, and they've played all over the Twin Cities, ran most recently at First Avenue. And then on the 22nd, there's a program that's called Home Alone Safety, and that will be for 9 to 12-year-olds, and the cost is $20, but it'll be from 9 to 3, so they will be provided with lunch and snacks, and they'll talk about personal and home safety, basic first aid, internet safety, phone skills, fire safety, and more. And let's see, and one more, and then I'll be done, the 26th. Also at noon at Oxburg Park, Kids Power with Raquel, and that will be at noon at Oxburg Park on the 26th.
Thank you much. Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. I just have one hats off announcement, and that's this weekend we had our first curling club event at our ice arena, and so the Richfield Curling Club has come not just to Richfield but to Hennepin County. So even though we're Olympic gold medalists in the U.S. and Minnesota is a hub for curling, there's actually no other place in Hennepin County where you can curl, and so this is we took the boys this Friday, learned a ton, had a blast. I think I had a misconception initially. I thought of it like really big, cold tiddlywinks. But there's actually a lot of strategy, a lot of body control, and our mayor, if you look on the community page, I just have to commend hats off to Mayor Elliott for having excellent curling form.
I was sad to miss it. I saw photos, and that was my question, is who's a better curler, our mayor or Councilmember Troutman?
Oh, by far the mayor,
All right.
by far the mayor, yes. Hats off to Richfield and hats off to the mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate the kudos, Councilmember Troutman. He was nice enough not to take the picture when I fell down. It's interesting because we had 2 Olympians there, and everybody had an opportunity to learn about the game and figure it out. And the one thing, if you ever go out, or I think they're going to have some clinics over at the second ice rink and everything, and go try it because it's interesting, and it's. I think the first perception I have is you watch it on TV and it looks like it's maybe 40 feet. It's a lot longer. You got to throw the stone a long way. And if you don't have the shoes that they promote and sell for it, they give you a little Teflon footy that you stand on. And the first thing they tell you is when you're done with it, get off it. Because I'll guarantee you more people were going splat because they tried to walk on those things. It was interesting. I really enjoyed it. And thank you. It was a good turnout, and I think that a lot of people signed up, a lot of people exhibited interest, and I think it's going to really be a big sport, the next big sport in Richfield.
I was just going to mention this because I failed to. If you want to learn out more, richfieldcurlingclub.com is where you go. Richfield Curling Club, just like it sounds.com. And there's a league that's starting Sunday evenings, and it's a newcomers league. So if you say, I've never curled before, you'd have that in common with most of your 40,000 neighbors. And this is the place where you could come and do that.
And as long as I've got the floor, I just want to remind everybody that 4th of July is fast approaching. We've had a turnover on the committee. They've set up a wonderful program. A lot of the things we're familiar with, the parade, the music, the car show. But one thing that is we never have enough of is volunteers, and time is never too short not to volunteer. There's a number of things that you can do, and it's a way to really get involved in the community and run, and basically, as Councilmember Regan Gonzalez has said, it gives you an opportunity to recognize and appreciate the diversity in Richfield because everybody comes out for the parade, comes out for the music. So if you have a lot of free time or a little free time, please volunteer, contact the committee, and they'll find a place for you that will suit your needs and the needs of the committee. So thank you. Councilmember Howard.
Well, we talked about we'll go from ice to the sun. I think Councilmember Troutman mentioned it last council meeting, but the Richfield pool is now open. And so get ready for some fun in the sun. And you can buy a season-long pass right now on the Richfield website. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is I wanted to highlight Memorial Day, which Richfield always just does such a fantastic job. And despite literally 100-degree weather, we had fantastic turnout on Memorial Day, and it was just some beautiful remembrances, and passed, I believe, the 1,000 mark in terms of engravings on our All Veterans Memorial. And so it was a wonderful day, and again, Richfield showed up despite that heat. It was wonderful.
Councilmember Regan Gonzalez.
I have one update. So everybody's invited to our Dementia Friends Kickoff Luncheon. So Richfield is working towards our dementia-friendly designation, and we will be having the kickoff next Wednesday on June 20th at 11:30 to 2. It will be a luncheon, and it will be held at the Richfield Community Center. And so basically what this designation is working together across all different types of stakeholders in Richfield to make sure that our city is a place that helps our community members with dementia feel included and supported here in our community. We work with restaurants, we work with businesses, we work with city staff, with organizations to make sure that our community is educated, that there is not a stigma around dementia, but that we really are aware of the signs of dementia and how we can support our neighbors. I know on my block and so many blocks, there is such a mix of new families, young children, and folks that have been in their community here in their homes for a long time. And there's a lot of seniors also living in their homes alone. And so this is really, again, another initiative that we have here in Richfield that is helping us focus on supporting the most vulnerable community members, and when we do that, we really are supporting other community members that are vulnerable as well, but everybody in between. We improve the well-being and health for everybody when we work on these type of initiatives. So again, next Wednesday at the Richfield Community Center at 11:30, please join us for our Richfield dementia-friendly kickoff event.
One last item, and I guess Councilmember Troutman's joke about falling in the ice kind of brought it to mind. One of the items that happens this 4th of July, it happened last that I forgot to mention, is there is a professional wrestling schedule card put on in the parking lot of the ice arena. And last year, they caught me half asleep, I think, but I agreed to referee one of the matches and had the wonderful opportunity to take a metal chair and sneak up behind a very big man in a very small swimming suit. And according to him, hit me as hard as you can right in the back because we have to sell it to the audience. And I did, and then got out of there really quickly. So apparently it's going to be here again this year, and I've been volunteered. They didn't ask, they just volunteered me to referee another match. And I hope that the wrestler that I have to hit this time at least has a kilt on. So come out and see it, and you can watch me get embarrassed, but they guaranteed me they wouldn't hurt me. So that's part of the 4th of July also.
That's must-see TV, folks.
Well, yeah. Councilmember Howard, there always seems somebody around to take a picture when I don't want to take them. Councilmember Howard got a couple at the wrestling match. So next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second, all in approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Consent calendar, City Manager Devich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. For those in the audience here and at home, the consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. And once the consent calendar has been approved, all the individual items and the recommended actions will also have been approved and require no further council action. Tonight, we start off with item A, which is consideration of the approval of a community celebration event license with a request for fee waiver and a temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license from the 4th of July Committee for events scheduled at Veterans Memorial Park, July 3rd and 4th, 2018. Item B is consideration of the approval of a temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license for activities scheduled to take place on July 4th, 2018 for the Richfield, Minneapolis American Legion Post 435, located at 6501 Portland Avenue. Item C, consideration of the approval of a bid tabulation and award of contract to Corrective Asphalt Materials, LLC, for the 2018 Maltine Pavement Rejuvenation Project in the amount of $486,200, and authorize the city manager to approve contract changes under $100,000 without further city council consideration. Item D is consideration of the adoption of a resolution authorizing the 69th Street West Pedestrian Improvements Project application submission for federal surface transportation program funds under the Metropolitan Council's regional solicitation process. Item E is consideration of the approval of an amendment of commercial lease with the Minnesota Department of Transportation and amendment of license agreement with the Transmission Shop Incorporated for the parking lot at Cedar Avenue and Diagonal Boulevard, and to authorize the city manager and mayor to execute any renewals of the amendment of commercial lease and amendment to license agreement after June 30th, 2020, without further council consideration. Item F is consideration of the adoption of a resolution supporting a Livable Communities Demonstration Act grant application to the Metropolitan Council for the Cedar Point 2 housing project. Item G is consideration of the approval of a first reading of an ordinance rezoning 6328 Aldrich Avenue from single-family residential to planned mixed use related to a proposal for the former Lindale Garden Center property. Item H is consideration of the approval of the lease agreement between the City of Richfield and ETS Elite South Central LLC for the use of the space formerly occupied by Hat Trick Hockey, which is in our ice arena, to conduct physical training programs. And finally, item I, consideration of the adoption of a resolution appointing Whitney Bain and Kristen Lindquist to the Board of Directors of the Richfield Tourism Promotion Board, Incorporated. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar.
Thank you. I would move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Consent calendar is passed. Item 7 on the agenda will be presented by Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. This is a public hearing in consideration of the adoption of a resolution providing host approval for the issuance of tax-exempt revenue bonds by the City of Bethel for the benefit of Partnership Academy. Partnership Academy is currently a K-5 charter school that opened in 2002. It began with a student body of around 100, predominantly African-American students from South Minneapolis and Richfield. The school has grown to be about 300 students and has shifted to be over 90% Latino, drawing from Richfield, Bloomington, and South Minneapolis. The purpose of the issuance of tax-exempt revenue bonds is to finance the acquisition of approximately 1.79 acres of land located at 6500 South Nicollet Avenue, the demolition of the existing building, and the construction of a new 42,000 square foot or 42,022 square foot facility for usage as a public charter school. And that will allow for the expansion of their program as a pre-kindergarten through 8th grade program. The reason that we're using the city of Bethel and not Richfield is because we have other expenses like the roads that are coming up that we're going to talk about later in the session. And I think the salient point is that this does not create a general or a moral obligation for the city of Richfield, but because it's taking place within the boundaries of the city of Richfield, it requires our approval. So with that, we'll conduct the public hearing. Are there any comments? Any comments? One more time, any comments on the issuance of our approval?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed.
Public hearing closed. I would move that we adopt the resolution authorizing the city of Bethel to issue tax-exempt revenue bonds on behalf of Partnership Academy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Next item is the consideration of the first reading of an ordinance rezoning property at 101 66th Street East, 66th Street and First Avenue from single-family residential to planned mixed use. PLH and Associates, the developer, has submitted an application for a planned unit development that includes a 3-story mixed-use building with 31 residential units and approximately 6,000 square feet of commercial space. Along with the application for a planned unit development, the developer applied to amend the comprehensive plan and zoning designations of the property to mixed use. On May 22nd, the City Council voted 5-0 to amend the comprehensive plan designation of the property. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing for the proposed development on April 23rd and heard additional public testimony on May 29th. Several residents testified at the Planning Commission meetings and submitted email comments in opposition to the change in zoning and the proposed development. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of rezoning the property and the final development plans with additional stipulations related to landscaping and parking lot screening along the south and east edges of the property. The first reading of rezoning is an administrative requirement and does not obligate the council to approve the ordinance upon second reading, nor does it obligate the council to approve the specific development plans. The second reading and final development plans will be considered by the council on June 26, 2018. So prior to taking comments, I will first move the item. So at this time, I would move approve the first reading of an ordinance that amends Richfield Zoning Code Appendix I to designate 101 66th Street East as planned mixed use. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Could we just?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take comments first.
I just wanted to speak briefly to this. I know this is the first reading. There are, and we had a work session about this, which I thought was appropriate and got some good dialogue from the developer, from residents. As I'm looking at this on first reading, I do see a lot of value added to the city by having mixed-use development on this site. I think there's really an ability to enrich our neighborhoods and add neighbors with this proposal, and I think those are positive things. That being said, I do want and expect a continued dialogue with the developer and neighbors. Something that we've done in prior developments is, I know a letter has been submitted into the official record that speaks to some of the commitments and some of the ongoing work, because I do think there are some legitimate concerns, and the ability that we can have some accountability for those things going forward are important to me before taking a final vote when this comes for second reading. But I do plan on supporting this motion tonight.
Additional comments? I would just suggest that I was at several of the Planning Commission meetings where significant testimony was offered and discussion was had and proposal debated. And I think that a couple of things that I was somewhat in favor of the project to begin with, but some of the comments made by members of the Planning Commission who had been presented with probably more testimony and more opportunities to meet with both the developer and the citizens than we've had to date were several of the Planning Commission members who started, opposed is a strong word, but weren't necessarily in favor of the development. And after several hearings and witnessing some interchange, albeit with the neighbors, probably not enough changes and enough concessions made to allow the Planning Commission members to change from somewhat against to affirming and voting positively in regards to the development. I think that up here, the City Council relies heavily on the Planning Commission and attends their meetings, listens to the debates, and uses the information we garner from that to help us assist us in making our decisions. And like I said, I'm as capable of anybody else from going from one side to the other based on information I hear and everything. And I think that there's been good faith attempt to move forward, to keep the doors open in regards to adjusting and amending some of the amenities and some of the concessions the developer has made to the neighbors. Once again, not enough to fully allow the neighbors to move over to that side, but I think it's an ongoing project. We're moving forward, and I think there's going to be continuing dialogue so that we can get closer to a totally equal sense that the project is good for the neighborhood, good for the city, and will keep moving forward and ultimately be approved. So at this time, I would ask, the motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Item 9 is Councilmember Reagan Gonzalez's responsibility this evening.
The next item for council consideration is the consideration of the second reading of an ordinance amending the tobacco ordinance to include increasing the minimum legal age to purchase tobacco products and tobacco-related devices from 18 to 21 years of age, and updating several sections to include new and updated definitions, and adopt a resolution for summary publication of the ordinance. Tobacco 21, a movement aimed at raising the minimum legal age for tobacco and nicotine sales age to 21, has seen recent success in Minnesota and nationwide. A work session occurred on March 27th, 2018, with the Advisory Board of Health related to increasing the tobacco sales age from 18 to 21 years. The presentation highlighted the benefits of Tobacco 21 policy and the protections it provides for younger tobacco users. In addition to raising the legal age to purchase tobacco products from 18 to 21 and adopting findings to support the change, the proposed ordinance updates and incorporates new definitions in order to stay compliant with state law and current with new products on the market. The proposed ordinance also eliminates purchase, use, and possession penalties against underage individuals, as studies indicate that such penalties are not effective in preventing tobacco use by young people. To date, 9 communities in Minnesota have passed Tobacco 21 laws. Those communities are Edina, St. Louis Park, Bloomington, Plymouth, North Mankato, Shoreview, Falcon Heights, Minneapolis, and St. Peter. The first reading of this ordinance amendment was approved by the City Council on May 22nd, 2018. I'm not sure if there's any additional comments from staff on this.
Thank you. The ordinance that you have in front of you is similar to the one that you saw on May 22nd, with the exception of the inclusion of the ability for our existing shops to continue to sample. There was some concern about that, so I believe we've got one in the community, and that clause was added in on page 8. Otherwise, everything else is the same.
Okay. Oh.
I just wanted to thank Council Member Reagan Gonzalez and our staff. Did a very good job. Jennifer Anderson did a very good job, and in terms of making sure that we had all the information, and it was just an overwhelming response by the public, and it's great that we have so many folks that are interested in the future of our kids and in the future of the well-being of our kids. So appreciate both of you in your support.
I was just going to say this. I made my comments in our last council session, but I was just reading the American Cancer Society's public statement on eliminating combustible tobacco, and they really draw a distinction between combustible tobacco and electronic cigarettes and nicotine products that are heated in terms of where the health risks lie. And I just want to be clear, I'll just say this again for the record. I'm going to make a prediction that the small vaping shops that are community-based, small businesses that are cessationist communities, I think in the next 5 years are going to be eliminated. And I think electronic cigarettes are going to be sold in gas stations, and they're going to be sold en masse right next to combustible tobacco products, which are cigarettes. And if you see one person that's not at the table here, it's not big tobacco. I think they're going to win in the end. And so with that, I would love to raise the rate on big tobacco and make sure that folks under 21 aren't able to purchase that. So I'll support the motion, but I am going to make that prediction. Thanks.
I'd just like to say, again, I also said my comments at the last council meeting on this issue, but again, thank you to Bloomington Public Health, thank you to the Advisory Board of Health, thank you to the youth and community members in Richfield who have done a lot of work on this issue. And I will move forward with the motion. I would like to make the motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance amending the tobacco ordinance to include increasing the minimum legal age to purchase tobacco products and tobacco-related devices from 18 to 21 and adopt a resolution for summary publication of the ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second reading is passed. Item number 10. Councilmember Howard.
I have item number 10, consideration of approval of the preliminary design layout of Lyndale Avenue reconstruction plan from 66th Street to 76th Street as recommended by the Transportation Commission. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Jack Brose, our transportation engineer, to give a short presentation on the process and design features of the Lyndale Avenue reconstruction plan.
Thank you, and again, my name is Jack Brose. I'm a city transportation engineer. As you've heard from your commissions tonight, Richfield has strong commissions, and it's almost unique that you have a transportation commission. And tonight, I also noticed we have Wes Dunzer from the Transportation Commission here, and he'll kind of try to wrap up my short presentation to give you a balance that it's just not a technical recommendation, but it actually reflects the values of the community. Specifically, Lyndale that we're talking about goes from just south of 66th Street down to 76th Street. The pavement and utilities need to be reconstructed. The design process that we went through includes not only the technical, the community outreach, but as I just said, the commission review, which is extremely valuable in this process. We started a little over a year ago with the technical work. We started we had 4 open houses, 6 transportation commission meetings, and our outreach went to the Chamber of Commerce, and along with several business and resident meetings directly related to the project. Some of the things we heard from those meetings: pedestrian concerns, focusing on the safety and accessibility, that the sidewalks and the crossings were deficient. There was a pedestrian fatality on the corridor, the fear of the speeding that occurs on Lyndale on a daily basis. Bicycle concerns, safety focused, basically the lack of any dedicated facilities make it challenging. Motorist concerns, as we went through this, the Lakeshore Drive intersection showed up as a intersection where people were getting hurt. A lot of dangerous maneuvers occur at that crooked intersection. Holy Angels traffic, we learned that we call that the Richfield cut-through, Lakeshore Drive, the 68th, jump on Lyndale for a little bit. So the traffic patterns there become an issue. The signal operations, a lot of old traffic signals. There were poor sight lines at several of the intersections. And there were concerns raised about if a 3-lane road could operate effectively on Lyndale. And in general concerns, we heard that the corridor appearance was lacking for such an important road for the community, and that in several areas, the parking was deficient for the local land use. From a technical point of view, we like to measure things, and so we break it down into the different modes. We break it down even further, and that was in your packet. But for understanding what makes a good pedestrian environment or bicycling, a vehicle environment, and consider the environment and the maintenance of the road, and foster the businesses and residents that are adjacent to the road and serviced by Lyndale. So at a big picture, on the east side of, this would be the right, on the east side of the corridor, we have a sidewalk that's protected from traffic by a tree boulevard. Similar to Portland, there would then be a bike lane before you actually come to cars. In the center, you have the medians at the crossings, again, similar to Portland. And on the west side, we would have a trail similarly protected by a tree boulevard and the bike lane before you get to traffic. The bicycle facilities are a little different as you move along the corridor. At the northern end, it's a cycle track similar to 66th Street. So that last block, between 66th and 67th would have the cycle track offset from traffic up near the sidewalk. As we move from 67th down to 70th, we would have an on-street bike lane, but it would be buffered. There would be an extra 2 feet to separate moving vehicles from the bicycle lane. That's similar to a buffered bike lane that's on 70th that goes all the way to Cedar Avenue. South of that point, it would be much more like Portland, where the on-street bike lane follows along, and I guess there is also a trail in both of those middle segments. The vehicle facilities, starting at the south end, it is a 3-lane road, similar to Portland. As we got north of 70th, there were a lot of constraints, a lot of narrowing, a lot of challenges to get that design to fit in effectively. And there we don't have a center turn lane, we just have a 2-lane road with a center median. The south end, there's traffic lights at 77th and 76th and 73rd, and that would be the same configuration when we're done. Part of the narrowing of the road, a 2-lane road, required some U-turns. We'll look at that in a second. But we have compact roundabouts, much smaller than the roundabouts at Portland and 66, and the new one at Nicollet in 66, and the upcoming one shown here at Lyndale in 66. So these are smaller roundabouts that would facilitate some of the traffic movements as you move along the northern part. Zooming in a little bit, some of the other features. South of 76th Street, we have added bicycle lanes and some additional parking. That parking, on-street parking, would also go all the way up to about 75th Street. On the east side, there's a large apartment complex where we consolidated their driveways to align with 75th Street, so that can be done more efficiently and safely. We've also added parking as we approach the residential portion up by 73rd, where there's currently Sunday parking, and there's only an alley access. So we had this, the space to put in some on-street parking in that block. As we continue to move north, there's additional parking by the similar residential area south of, between 73rd and 72nd Street. As we move north of 72nd Street, Augsburg is proposed to be closed, that little connection that currently still exists. And Oak Grove is being realigned to be a more squared up intersection. You see your first compact roundabout at 70th Street. But as we go north of 70th, we've narrowed the section to minimize the impacts to Wood Lake and the park and the History Center. In that case, it's actually no place to turn, so it's really just a two-lane road with an on-street bike lane. And then the last, as we get to the north, we've narrowed the section again to stay out of Wood Lake and stay out of the properties on the east side. And here I think you can start to see the need for the roundabouts, like at 68th Street, where you can see the homes on the east side. There is no alley. There's no looping around even on Garfield, so we can allow those people not to have a left turn lane, so we can narrow the road, but consequently they can make a U-turn, say at 68th or 67th. We've added parking on the east side as you approach 66th Street in that heavy commercial area. And we've also shown Lakeshore Drive to be what we call a right in, right out off of the southbound lanes. So you would preclude that left turn movement. Anybody wanting to go left can go to 68th Street and make a U-turn at the roundabout. So this rendering kind of gives you an impression of what the three roundabouts would look like in this area. This area currently has a tremendous speeding problem pretty much all day long. And if you look at it now and say each one of those roundabouts, the car will be going about 20, not 40, as you move through that area. So you should see the completely different traffic calming effect as you get into this core area of Richfield. So then, to conclude, upon approval, this project would move into the 5-year street reconstruction plan, and the public hearing for that would be in July. Then detailed design would begin. We'd contact all adjacent property owners, notify all of the encroachments on the right-of-way. The private property would have to be removed from the right-of-way, and the utility design would begin, and all the service line impacts would be identified. And Wes, you come up for a second to kind of, again, this is a process that's not just technical. So Wes has a few things he'd like to say as commission member.
My wife and I live on 68th Street, and we've talked to a lot of our neighbors about this project and what's valuable for them. And one thing that keeps coming up is Richfield's safe, but it's crossing Lyndale that scares us. Going to Wood Lake, sending our kids there, anything like that. It's that busy 4-lane road with those cars going 40 miles an hour that really kind of stop people and really make them second guess how far down they want to go, how far they even want to let their kids ride on their bike and feel safe crossing. One nice thing, and this was appropriate for today because the mayor of St. Paul was on the radio talking about how he wishes they had money for infrastructure and roads and how privileged Richfield is to be able to actually do something about this. 50 years ago, this road is built to last till now, and it took Richfield from farmland to the city it is today, and part of what our commission is doing is looking at this road has to last for the next 50 years. What does that mean? We have to predict out 25, 30, 40, 50 years from now, and with multimodal transportation, more people walking, biking, buses, electric vehicles, everything else that's coming into the city, what is that going to look like? And we really vetted it out and feel strongly that this captures as much as we can possibly foresee for the future.
Thank you. Councilmember Howard, prior to returning it to you, do you have any anything additional to add? Otherwise, I'm going to ask Mr. Cook to come up. Okay. Larry Cook has requested an opportunity to speak to the council on behalf of a homeowner that is directly impacted by the proposed change on Lindell. So, Mr. Cook, if you would please just state your name and address and sign in for us, and then go ahead and speak.
Thank you. Am I not too loud here? My name's Larry Cook. I live at 471 Bighorn Drive, Chanhassen, Minnesota. I have my law practice there as well. I've had the privilege of representing Nola Wagner, who lives at 7000 Lindell Avenue, since 1993. And I've had an occasion to know her and her family, and been at her home many times to meet with her and her husband. And she contacted me on Monday to express further her concerns about the proposed changes to Lindale, but particularly the proposed roundabout at 70th and Lindale. Now, I have prepared a letter with some detail of our concerns that I would be happy to provide to you now, or at least to have it put into the record. But basically summarizes what I'm going to try to cover here today, and I'll try not to be as efficient as possible. The concern with, and we don't have a diagram, but maybe you have a diagram in front. I have copies I can provide you. The concern here is that the proposed roundabout at 70th Nola's property is on the southwest corner of that intersection. Now, that intersection is a T, as you all know by looking at that. Her driveway, I estimate, is less than 1,400 feet from the roundabout. Okay, so putting in any kind of and as you also know, that roundabout, that street curves there. Putting in any kind of roundabout now will limit her access or the visibility of her seeing to enter or exit off of Lindale to her property. The same problem is posed for the Oak Grove Boulevard individuals. The problem is obviously you don't have much area there to put in maybe the standard roundabout on that basis. So one, you have a case of access onto and off of Lindale. Her driveway is at an angle. It's been there since 1963 or 69 on that basis. Would have to change it and would be at an angle and with several angles in it, make it even more difficult to have access on and off of Lindale. The issue is not quite as bad for the Oak Grove Boulevard individuals. The objection here is one of safety, her ability to be able to see traffic coming toward her to get on and off. With adding the angle, the fact that you're going to have something in the middle of that roundabout, we don't have any final designs as far as I know, but I just looked at the roundabout you have just to the north of you. Most of the roundabouts that I'm familiar with in the city of Edina and elsewhere, have something in the middle which would further impede the sight lines, okay, to be able to determine when you're having traffic. Currently, that intersection is controlled by a traffic light. That traffic light gives NOLA and the people who are using Oak Grove Boulevard at least a period of time of unfettered access, basically, to Lindale. They know that the traffic from the north and the traffic from 70th is going to be stopped because they can see the traffic light. With the roundabout, there's no such time when there is a total stop to that traffic. In addition, as the manager said, this is apparently going to be a condensed or smaller roundabout. I believe this poses a real problem for the people on 70th. You can look at any of the aerial photographs. You see that at any one time during the school year, there's some 24 cars parked along 70th. I understand most of these people are students who go to school in Roosevelt. So now we have a long list of people who, at least at 2 times during the day, are going to want to be able to access onto Lindale from 70th. At no time do they have unfettered access. And I don't know about you, but I've been driving a long time. When I come to a roundabout, I still have some anxiety, and I do drive a number of the roundabouts. And I've been driving since I've been 9 years old, so I've been driving a long period of time. So we have a concern. One, the safety of NOLA and the other residents' access to Lindale. to the safety of the individuals coming from 70th, okay, on Lindale, particularly going south. And if it is, as I suspect, that we have a substantial number of students driving cars, okay, I know when I was 18, my reactions were top-notch. My judgment probably was lacking. I think that it would be better, and Nola, and I believe other of her fellow neighbors are here, would prefer to continue with having a light to control that intersection for safety reasons. Because that would be safer for the kids, safer for those residents in that regard. Again, sight lines, restrictions on traffic flow. One of the things that I understand that there may be buses, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of late to the game here, but I believe there are buses that go on 70th. You know, I drove a truck for many years on a farm, you know, and I know how difficult it is to merge onto traffic. I have never driven a school bus, but I can only imagine it's even more difficult because they are generally longer. And so I have concerns about even the safety and the ability of the drivers to be able to or want to negotiate that kind of a turn. I also mentioned the restriction on sight. One of the issues I see in the restriction of sight is there's going to be snow. We all know there's snow. Most of the roundabouts I see in the city end up with some kind of a snow pile, which just detracts from your sight lines, your visibility, and your safety. And I bring up safety because, not just because of NOLA, but, you know, I reviewed the city's policy regarding streets. And specifically in your policy regarding streets, it says that it's your policy to enhance the safety of your streets and your community. And it's our position, NOLA's and the neighbors, that putting this roundabout there will not be enhancing the safety of the community, but actually be detracting from safety, and actually pose a greater danger for the reasons that I've stated. So what we would like to do is we would propose that that roundabout be eliminated totally, a smart traffic light be put in, same as you have a traffic light there. I don't think it's maybe the smart traffic light, but the new traffic lights are amazing and they could be put in. In addition, this is such a compacted area that it would impose, take much or a good portion of the property of my client, and that property is used to access the back part of her and her neighbor's lots. Now, because the grading would be changed without spending a lot of money to change grading, they would not be able to get to the back lots where they mow and maintain that lower property. So in addition, there's a property issue and access to property issue. So we would request that for those reasons that you would approve the changes, but without the roundabout at 70th, or at least at a minimum, have this go back to staff and require an opportunity for NOLA and her other neighbors, myself included, to sit down and talk with staff to figure out what really can make sense in this case, because we believe a roundabout is not the best way to go. And I'll finalize my comments here with, I had the privilege of driving up your Portland. It's been quite a few years actually since I've driven up Portland. It was a very pleasant and enjoyable ride, but what I noticed in particular was this. From where I went on 494 all the way up here until you go just north here, there's not a roundabout. And there's a traffic light. And it seems to me, unless somebody objects, it seems to be working. I think it's beautiful. I think it works well. And I think the bottom line is NOLA and her neighbors would just like the same thing at 70th and Lindale as part of this reconstruction. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure I'd be able to do that, but like I said, we'd either like to have it eliminated or have it go back to staff and an opportunity for the neighbors and us to all get together and work through this problem, which is also one of the themes of your street policy. And am I supposed to sign in here?
Please.
Okay.
I had a question. I had an opportunity to talk with Ms. Wagner this past week also, and appreciated her concerns. One question that I had, and it sounds like from that conversation till now, maybe there's been a little clarification. Initially, would there be a takings of her property with that roundabout, or would it be the property that the city already has access to, already the city has authority to use that, they would just use it differently, that would maybe be still disrupt, not questioning whether it be disruptive to Ms. Wagner, but just so I could be clear, because there's been some back and forth.
And again, I apologize, I'm kind of late to the game, but based on my examination of the map that's, on site that I utilized, and I created these attachments here. Based on that, it appeared that the lines that the city already has easement, probably rights, that the improvements would fall within that. What the impact is, as far as the property is concerned, it would significantly, because her topography is that it is, they will not be able to utilize or get to the back part of the lot, which I believe slopes down significantly. So that would require some major changes. But I think the biggest one, the real concern here is the access, egress, ingress to Lindale and off of Lindale, and in particularly also that traffic that comes off of 70th, being those students and those school buses. But I hope I answered your question.
No, I think you did. I appreciate that. I had a question for Mr. Brose, too. Is this something that it's essential for us to resolve this evening? This is kind of a high-level plan. Is that correct? Would we have an opportunity to revisit this perhaps in the Transportation Commission?
Yeah, in all our standard process, we as we get into detailed design, we take a look at the impacts in a little bit more shining light. If you could drive, he referred to Portland, and you can move along, you'll see short little retaining walls that showed up. Those are actually options. We will meet with the homeowners and discuss the interface, and sometimes they would prefer just to have a sloped yard a little further in. Sometimes they just want that short wall. So there's a process on all our projects that take parcel by parcel as we go into detail design. We don't do that until the concept has been approved. So the concept is essentially what was on the table here.
City Manager, do you have a comment?
I do, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and folks listening to this dialogue. The one thing I want to make clear, because the way I've heard this put out, I've heard the term taking of property or that sort of connotation. I want to make it clear that everybody understands that what we're talking about is property that is within a city right-of-way. There's no taking of somebody's property. It's a city right-of-way that the city has allowed or to be used in a particular manner. But at any time that someone uses city right-of-way, they always do that with the understanding that if the city ever needs that right-of-way, that it's the city's there to have. And for something as important as a roadway, that's a consideration of why they use rights-of-way. And so when we talk about this project or any other project, and projects that we've done, when you're talking about city right-of-way, you're not talking about taking a property. Just want to make sure the public understands that.
Thank you. If I may, Jack, and I'm sorry, Mr. Cook. By definition, this is a preliminary design approval, correct? And I think you just told us that moving forward is when you grind down to the real details and get the final plans put in place. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, Mr.
And what kind of a timeline are you on if we want to stay on schedule?
We're on a timeline. We want to stay on schedule for a winter bid advertising. And so we're on a schedule right now where we should move into detail design.
Okay. If you're gonna drill down on a detailed design, would it be appropriate to set aside some time over the next 7 to 10 days, whatever works with everybody's schedules, and meet with Mr. Cook and the clients, and perhaps if there's other homeowners in the area that have some concerns, and address their concerns and see if, in fact, accommodations can be made. If they can't, they can't, but at least offering an opportunity to talk to them directly about the concerns over the safety issues entering and egressing from that roundabout coming off Oak Grove. I mean, is that a possibility?
That is most definitely a possibility. In fact, if we go back to the presentation, that's exactly what it says is detailed design begins. Contact all adjacent property owners. That would be the first step we would do. And so that would be the the beginning, after the approval, that would be a normal course for us.
Okay, so by approving the preliminary design this evening, you can still move forward and everything stays on its timeline, and then whatever comes out of the meetings will come out of the meetings, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I just had a couple, well, just one question. Obviously, safety is a key issue as we've looked at this whole corridor. And I know as we've looked at roundabouts, safety has been a key component of that. With crash data and whatnot, is safety part of the justification why we're looking at a roundabout on 70th here?
There isn't a existing crash issue with the signal at 73rd. There's other than safety. I mean, it starts with safety, but there are features of the cost of a signal and the cost of maintaining a signal electricity over time. An intersection that's got a roundabout has a lot of those other benefits, not only just the safety, slowing cars down to 20 miles an hour. There's also a crossing for pedestrians there. A roundabout takes the street from about, like if you go down here to the light at 70th, you've got nearly 40-some feet that you have to traverse, exposed to traffic, whereas a roundabout, these crossings are going to be, say 20 feet. Then you have that center median and then the next 20 feet. So the medians at roundabouts make it also safer for pedestrians right by the school.
And then my other question related to safety for Ms. Wagner that was raised just with the proximity of her driveway to the roundabout. And I guess my question there is there, how close, or how does that compare to our existing roundabouts throughout the city? Is this much closer to roundabouts, or is this in line with where other driveways have been lined up with the roundabout? Just trying to get a little better sense of that safety concern with the proximity to the roundabout.
I would need to take a little longer look at answer that question effectively.
Okay.
I could maybe, sorry, Councilmember Howard, that we do have, like if you look at Portland, you think of that one, there's access points almost within where the medians are, which are shorter than these medians. If I remember correctly, I think they're almost half the size of these, and there's driveways closer than this.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know that it's, fruitful to take your time and have a long discussion about this, but I think I do have comments and concerns about what the manager said and about roundabouts. I've done a lot of homework, just in the past 24 hours on roundabouts and the studies that are out there. And what I would ask is that we have the opportunity to have a dialogue and not by passing this have it fait accompli that there's going to be a roundabout at that place. In addition, we have some ideas, and we can certainly develop it further, about some changes to Lyndale and a roundabout if it was going to be put in that I believe would change sight lines, increase safety. And on the last note about safety, I think there's room for some good dialogue about whether or not roundabouts are actually safer for pedestrians and bikers. So what I'm saying is this. We would be happy to meet and have a good discussion. I just would not want this vote to be fait accompli and not have an option to have a discussion and the possibility of maybe a light would be better. And again, I simply point to Portland itself as a prime example. Thank you.
I don't think so.
Well, I guess my question, a vote on this wouldn't preclude us making a change to go to a stoplight. Is that correct?
Well, thank you. Can I answer that, Mayor Elliott? I would suggest if we're going to change the intersection control that we're not, we're moving back like probably to, 6 months ago, or when did the commission decide? That impacts, it wouldn't work without the roundabouts. The roundabouts were why we narrowed the roadway so that we could reduce the impacts between the two roundabouts. That way people could take the U-turns at the roundabouts to be able to access their property. That was all based on trying to narrow the roadway to reduce the impacts to the property owners. And I just have to say, it's hands down, roundabouts are safer for everybody. That's just a given,
But Just as a matter of process, does this vote, that's just a question of mine. If we vote for this, are we voting for a roundabout at 70th, or is there leeway for dialogue before, and what actually moves forward?
My suggestion and my interpretation of what's before you is if you're considering about not putting a roundabout at 70th, I wouldn't approve this plan.
Well, if there's talk about having a increased dialogue, does it make sense to table this until our next council meeting and then take action in a couple weeks? Does 2 weeks throw us off our timeline and our plan?
Well, we have a whole process to go through for the funding, so not necessarily, but if it stayed the way that it is proposed, then I think we could stay on schedule if there's a dialogue, but then it ends up essentially the same, we could move forward. If it ends up being different, then I think we'd probably just kick it out from 2019.
If I may, when did the plan first come out with the roundabout at 70th?
Which open house was that? I think it was probably the third open house.
Probably the third open house.
I think we were talking about intersection types still at the second open house and what the benefits were, and I think at the third open house, which is, looking for the date, when this first plan was first introduced.
Okay, I need to know the date.
Okay. February 20th.
2018?
Right,
So it's been out about 4 months.
right. And at that
What
plan,
was when that first came out, what would have been necessary? And that included all the new roundabouts.
yes.
The one on 66 has been in place for a long time.
Yep.
Lakeshore, 68th and 70th first came out in that plan.
Mhm. And
what kind of notice was given to the people on Oak Grove and Lindale and everything in regards to the plan coming out and that there'd been some design changes in it?
Well, the same notice was given to everybody along the corridor, which was an invite to the meeting or access online to see what we're talking about if we couldn't make it. Also, Jack's number was on there if you wanted to call and find out what's going on.
Okay, and I've seen those, but give me approximation of prior to that meeting, when have the notices gone out?
Where did the notices?
When?
Oh, probably, at least we try to target it between 2 weeks to 10 days before the meeting.
Single notice or multiple venues?
Multiple venues. We would do social media, newspaper ads, and paper postcards, so you don't even have to rip open an envelope.
Okay, with that being said, and not discounting the residents' concerns about safety and everything, we've been anticipating, it's been part of our capital budget plan for the last 3 or 4 years. And prior to February of 2018, we'd been at it for a little over a year.
We started talking about it before our first open house, which was October.
A lot of information passed out, and February 2018, the series of small roundabouts were implemented and put into the plan.
Right. And at that meeting, there was, actually the roundabouts, I think, were on the plan with the signal option as kind of a cutout. But we threw the roundabouts on the plan to make sure people knew that we were considering roundabouts at these locations and not have those as a little alternative cutout, so.
And this is just, I'm just one vote on the council, but it's my feeling that we're too far down the road if in fact doing a dialogue now that may precipitate changing the roundabouts, whether it's just, be the small ones, whether it's 1 or 3 of them, is going to seriously jeopardize what we've been working on for 3 years. And I'm not without concern about the safety issues voiced by Mr. Cook for his clients and other residents, but there were opportunities from February to today's date before this thing got noticed and everything to address or to familiarize yourself with the concerns and bring them to us before we got this far along. So I'm going to vote yes and continue the process for the preliminary plan. So that's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm just one vote of many.
I guess I would just make one more comment, and I want to say overall, we're talking about a specific area of this plan. I think the overall plan is very strong and forward-looking, and Commissioner Member Dunzer, I think, stated very well that it's incumbent on us to look, not just try to replace what's there, but to look to the future, to look for a road that's investing in what people want to see in Richfield 50 years from now, and I think this does that very well. But mindful that we're building a project for 50 years, I guess I don't think that taking 2 more weeks to talk with residents about their concerns about the project, and I realize notices went out, but I think that some residents are engaging more recently with specifically how this is going to impact their property. And I'll say, I think I'm inclined to, that this is probably the option that works in the scheme of the whole plan. I just think that because it is a significant change for some of those residents, it won't kill us to spend a little time and having that dialogue and take action in 2 weeks.
Just a minute, Mr. Cook, just one other thing, Councilmember Howard. I appreciate affording the opportunity, but I believe Public Works Director Asher has indicated that altering or changing whatever we have at 70th Street changes the whole plan, or precipitates multiple changes in the plan, so it's not quite as simple as saying, what are we going to do at 70th? And I think, but I'm not sure it is fait accompli. I think maybe we've just ratified what you told us, Mr. Cook, but at this stage in the game, I'm not certain we're in a position to grind it to a halt, or to take testimony that's going to manifest multiple changes in the plan. Go ahead, Councilmember Garcia, and then
I agree with with Mary Elliott. I remember way back when the last time we changed Lindale Avenue, and that was a big deal then too. No one likes any change, and the older I get, the less change I like. But that was such a big problem in those days. And what wound up happening is that if you go down the street, some of the residents that are still there, they think that was great that we did that. I know that we've had plenty of open houses, and I've known, and I really appreciate that the Planning Commission has attended a lot of the open houses, and I know that they really have done their homework. I appreciate the fact that they're always the first line of criticism that staff gets from the Transportation Committee, and I know that it's constructive criticism, and but I really respect the time, the effort that the transportation folks have put into it, and Wes has done an outstanding job in sharing that commission and really being forthcoming and open-minded about a number of issues. So I will also support, what do you call it? I will also support the staff recommendation.
Mr. Cook, one last closing argument with no rebuttal. The floor is yours.
And I'm not here to make an argument.
No,
Number one.
Presentation.
No, presentation. Number one, I believe there's a misconception. My understanding from NOLA is that she has contacted several people, and I believe even members of the council, regarding this issue. I believe she had a meeting with this, yet her issues have not been addressed. And the last thing I will say, assuming there are other comments, is your very own policy on streets says that you will be involved with the public and the constituents all the way through to design. And with that, I'll say good night. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Which direction? Councilmember Troutman.
Yes. I just wanted to mention something, not just on behalf of this, but on behalf of the several emails that I've gotten, and I'm sure other members have gotten emails too. I think there's always a challenge. If we send correspondence out 1 block, it should be 2 blocks. If we send correspondence out 3 blocks, there's always a group that are coming that wish they would have known sooner, and nothing makes you less sensitive to government notices than a happy life. That it's not a priority to make that. So when I just want to address Mr. Cook. When I did speak with Miss Wagner, I was under the impression that that this was her land and there would be a taking, and after talking with staff, understood that that was not the case, there would not be a taking. But with that said, I think we do have an obligation to continue to do that through the process, and so I'm generally predisposed to support Councilmember Howard's disposition to slow things down, but I also want to respect, as a liaison to the Transportation Commission, that there are volunteer residents that give up their evenings every week, or on the evenings, multiple evenings to work through that and engage the public, and we have gotten feedback over the last 4 or 5 months, and I think it's a better project because of that. So I would vote to move forward.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes.
I'd just like to make a clarification point and ask staff. So my understanding is with the approval of this preliminary plan, so if we think that we should switch this back to a stop light, to lights versus a roundabout, we should vote no. And if we agree that this plan, including this roundabout, is what we should move forward with, we vote yes, but that doesn't preclude us from continuing conversations with residents around protections if we approve, correct?
Councilmember Gonzalez, I would agree with that. As long as we're not changing the intersection itself.
Correct.
When it comes to the
Correct.
driveway and things of that nature, we definitely would be
I just
meeting with
wanna
them. That's the next step.
Clarify that, thank you.
And I'll just make one comment, Mr. Mayor. I can see where the council is at on this. And I'll be voting for this. Again, speaking to the entirety of the design, I think is absolutely forward-looking. It's the right approach, and I do applaud all of the work that's gone in from the city and from residents that have provided input to this project. I just do want to make sure that continued dialogue happens and that we can continue to the extent we can address issues, in particular safety issues, as we move forward with our residents.
Bring a motion.
Sure, I'll make the motion for consideration and approval of the preliminary design layout of Lindale Avenue reconstruction plan from 66th Street to 76th Street as recommended by the Transportation Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Excuse me. Ma'am, if you can hang around, I can talk after. I just couldn't put you on the public record. If you have 10 minutes, we're going to be done, and I'll meet you. If you have 10 minutes, I'll meet you outside. Okay? City Manager's report.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we got a number of scheduling things to take a look at. First of all, we typically cancel the second council meeting in August, and this would be August 28th. And, about the same time, I know, Jared, you sent out 2 possible dates for budget night, right? And do you remember what they were? August 29th and September 5th. So, one thing is the 29th, if the council decides to do the budget night on the 29th, you still end up having a council meeting that week. I don't know if people want that week off to be able to do vacation just before, school starts and all that stuff, or what. If that's the case, then you might want to do the budget meeting on September 5th. And again, typically we cancel the August meeting on the 28th, and we can, if council wants to do that, we certainly can do that. It's been something we've done for about the last 10 years, I suppose, or more. And and so that's one issue. And the second thing is on the meeting of the 14th, that is the date of the statewide primary. And so we can't have a city council meeting on August 14th. And we were just kicking around a couple of dates. One of the things I thought about is, since we'd only have, if we're going to cancel the 28th, you'd only have one council meeting. And, you know, what if we made that on the 21st of August, which would be the night after the HRA meeting? And then you'd have one council meeting in the middle of the month, and so we might be able to capture the things that we need to get done. So if council's okay with that, I'd probably go along with doing that. And
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
For me.
Me
Okay.
too.
right?
Sounds good.
And we're looking at canceling the 28th. Is that how I see things going? Yes.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, there is one more thing I want to get to, and I've notified the council of this ahead of time, but I'm just going to take a minute to read something really quickly into the record. And this is a letter from me to the Richfield City Council, to the mayor and city council. It's with a heavy heart that I inform you today of my intention to resign my position as Richfield City Manager and retire from public service effective November 30th, 2018. It's been a very difficult decision for me, as you probably all know. But the timing appears to work best for the city and for my retirement plans. I've enjoyed my 38 years at Richfield, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities and rewards that the city of Richfield has given me. Richfield, a community, Richfield city government, Richfield city councils, past and present, and Richfield city staff represent the very best of what a city can be. Lastly, let me assure you that I will assist you in any manner that I may be of value in the process of finding my replacement. And sincerely, Stephen Devich. It's a tough thing. And again, I thank the city council and for everything, for all the opportunities the city has given me. And, you know, there's times I wish I could work forever, but I can't. And
I would suggest for all those sitting up here and all those that preceded us that we have benefited greatly from your leadership. And we're going to miss you. And don't get too far away, because there's some things we're going to need you to help us with anyhow, okay?
Sure.
And I know it's been tough, and I promise not to make any jokes, so I won't. And as a matter of fact, the one thing that I remember, you know, this is way back before I ever thought of running or getting mad because there was a press conference across my front yard.
Right, I remember that.
Is something that struck me, and I don't know why, because I never really paid much attention to city council members and everything. But after our mistake in terms of securing city managers was found out and left, and I remember there was an interview process, and they certainly wouldn't have published interviews of the candidates, but I remember a comment you made when asked about salaries and everything. And they said, you know, that your predecessor had made this and Mr. Prosser had made this. And I don't remember the exact comments, but you said, you know, I've been with the city for a while, I know it. And so I want to earn your respect, I want to earn my salary, so I'll start at an artificially low, and then if I'm worthy of it, you can move it up. And that impressed me greatly, because you're saying, look, I've been around a long time, you know me and everything, but this is a new job, it takes on a lot more responsibility. So let me prove what I can do, and if I do that, then you can compensate me accordingly. And all I know is ever since that date, they've gone up, so you must be doing something right. So once again, that stuck with me, and it's like I said, I had no involvement in the government or anything, but the comments you made and being willing to earn it and not expect it is something that stuck with me, and I really appreciated that, and I still do today, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, our city manager, I hate to see you go, because you're the only member of the staff that I'm nasty to on a regular basis. He's got a great sense of humor, and I appreciate that fact. But I can't say enough about what a great job he's done. I've known him since the 80s, so I probably have known him longer than anyone else here. And I have appreciated him from day one. He is extraordinary. He's talented, he's smart, he's articulate, He writes well most of the time, and quite frankly, whether I've been on the council or not, I've worked with you as a state representative, but I've always had we've always had a good relationship, and I consider you a confidant, a good friend, and I'm not going to guarantee that when the time gets closer that I know that I'm not going to be dry-eyed, because I really care a lot about you, and I wish you health, and I wish you a good rest and a lot of fun. And I know that you deserve all of that that's coming to you. So, Godspeed.
Thank you.
Just a few comments. I got this email today, and instantly kind of thought about a couple months ago when we had the opportunity to drive around Richfield. You wanted to show some of the, where we've been and where we're going, and it just sort of struck me just the pride that our city manager has in our city, and where we've been and where we're going, and especially the pride in where we're going. Just the investment that you've put in our city and our future means that your contributions are going to be seen for years and years and years to come. And I'm just so grateful for every time I had a question, however weird or off the wall, knew that you would have an answer for it and you'd get right back to me. And just to have that, someone who would have that honest conversation grounded in what's best for the city, was just always so helpful to me. And you may be retiring, but definitely make sure to reserve some time on your calendar to come back with a hard hat and a shovel when we break ground on the underpass, because we hope that you're front and center when that happens soon.
Thank you.
And so thank you for everything, Steve.
Thank you.
I just want to add to that there are a lot of things that are going to be your legacy, Steve, but the community speaks for itself. And when I knock on doors, when I ask what's wrong with Richfield, because that's usually what I ask when I ask folks, the spontaneous response is not a problem. It's, I love Richfield. 3 words. I love Richfield. And your staff is your legacy. You have a team that's faithful, that's tremendous, that makes us look good more often than we deserve. And that's your legacy too. Just the esprit de corps that we have in our staff, how they love the city, how they support you in your vision and our vision and work with us. Like you've guided us and other councils through that. And so I just want to say, in addition to all the other things and all the buildings and this great city hall, and there are lots of things we can point to since the 80s. But I'd be remiss if we didn't point that out, the people and the lives you've touched, ours on the council, but the whole city. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say a few words too. So a lot of people don't realize, and some people do realize how amazing Richfield is, but a lot of people don't realize all of the hard work it takes over years and years and years to get to where we are today. We have an excellent infrastructure. We have walkability, bikeability, beautiful parks, a great school system. It's a safe, welcoming community that's perfectly nestled in the Twin Cities. It's a hidden gem. And that doesn't just happen overnight. That happens because of your leadership. That happens because of the people you've hired. That happens because of the councils that have come before us. That, we have the community we have today because of your leadership and your hard work. And you need to have so many skills. You need to be a jack of all trades to pull something like that off. So many communities in Minnesota and across the country are in a crisis situation, whether it is with their infrastructure or you name it. But Richfield is really in an excellent condition. We have strong financial health. You have to have strong skills in that, which you have communications, people skills, visioning skills, thinking not just about immediate impacts, but also thinking about the impact and what our community is going to be like 20, 30 years down the road, planning skills, policy, and leadership. You have all of those things in spades, and that is why, and you do it with integrity and humility always. So I just want to say you are responsible for so much of why we are in the position we are today. We are, you make this job for us a lot easier than a lot of communities have. And, you know, in other communities, the councils don't get along with one another. They don't get along with city staff. They are in a crisis situation, and we are not. We work well together. We do our best to work in partnership with our community, and that is because of your leadership. So a lot of times I think in general that goes unrecognized by folks, and people benefit from it, but they don't really see the hard work that happens at the city level. So thank you for all of that. And all of those years of hard work, you deserve to go move to a beach somewhere and retire and have a great retirement. So hopefully that's what you have planned.
Thank you.
Beach is only in order if you save a hammock for me. Okay?
Right.
Claims and payroll.
I will move claims and payroll, Mr. Mayor.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.